Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Senate Standing Committee on Education, our seventh meeting for this legislative session. I do ask for those in the room, we do have an overflow room. If anyone needs to move, we have room 131 that is available for overflow, so we don't have anybody standing. So if you need that. Also, committee members as well as guests, if you have a cell phone, we just kindly ask that you turn that to silent or vibrate. We would greatly appreciate it while we conduct the business that we have this morning. Mariah, if you would, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Here.
Senator Givens.
Here.
Senator Harper Angel. Senator Higdon. Here. Senator Kerr. Senator Meredith. Here. Senator Neal. Senator Southworth. Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas. Senator Wilson.
Here.
Senator West.
Here.
Chair Wise.
Present. We do have a quorum or duly constituted to do business this morning. Does any member on the committee have any guests that are in the audience they would like to recognize this morning? I do see a superintendent from my district, Kirby Smith, back there with Campbellsville Independent Schools. Kirby, good to have you here this morning joining us. Seeing no further introductions, we do have a presentation to start off this morning, and it's involving Evolve 502. And if we could have those members that are testifying on behalf of that, I think Ms. Cole, the Executive Director of Evolve 502, for those members not with a background and understanding about Evolve 02, we are inviting them today to talk about a major challenge in their community, and that's making post-secondary education an achievable goal. And Evolve 502 is aiming to remove barriers in their community, promote the skilled and educated workforce for their community needs to remain competitive. I met with this group, I think virtually, earlier this year, and loved what you all had, and appreciate you all being here this morning. And so, Ms. Cole, the floor is yours. If you just identify yourself for the record, please. And on your microphone, there's a button to push that makes a green light appear.
There we go. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Marlon Cole, Executive Director of Evolve 502. And thank you so much, Senator Wise. And it's a pleasure for us to be here with all of you all today and share more about the work of Evolve 502. Get the slides going here. Okay. A little computer challenge, but we'll get it. Oh, maybe I missed with
No, use the mouse. Yes.
Yes, the mouse.
Yeah, maybe.
Huh. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that.
You're welcome.
Louisville has been focused on growing the educational attainment of our community for some time. 55,000 Degrees, led by Mary Gwen Wheeler, really helped organize us around this effort and move the needle on having more working adults in our community with college degrees. Mayor Fisher's Cradle to Career framework really helped us to focus around key transition points from kindergarten readiness to workforce and talent development. So lessons learned from all of these efforts have really elevated the need to increase college affordability, as cost is the #1 barrier that keeps our young people from pursuing a post-secondary education, and also the need to address the barriers, both academic barriers and non-academic barriers that keep our young people from being successful. So with guidance and support from local and national partners, Evolve 502 was established to carry out this work moving forward. As a public-private partnership, it is our vision to ensure that every child is prepared for college, career, and a successful, productive life, with a strong emphasis on equitable access to resources and supports. We use 3 strategies to drive our work: systems, scholarships, and supports. In all that we do, we strive for systems change using data, best practices, and the reallocation of resources in our community to address those gaps and to come together with solutions. We are raising the dollars to provide a 2-year tuition-free post-secondary education and other supports for an entire generation of JCPS students to attend any Kentucky Community and Technical College or Simmons College of Kentucky, which is Louisville's historically black college and university. And we are convening and collaborating with JCPS and community partners to better link youth and families to needed supports and resources to ensure that every child has the tools they need, regardless of their zip code and their family circumstance, to be successful. So more about our scholarship opportunity. We are offering a last dollar scholarship, meaning that we're covering the gap between federal and state aid and tuition, and really leveraging those public dollars with locally raised dollars. And for our lowest income students, those with incomes of $40,000 or less, we are providing what we call an opportunity grant, $1,000 per semester to help with those other costs of attending college. Things like housing, buying your books, getting computers, and really helping with those little life emergencies that just pop up for our young people and keep them from being successful. We were proud to welcome our first class of scholars this fall, the class of 2021. We had close to 600 students that took advantage of our scholarship opportunity, and we already have over 1,300 applications for the class of 2022. As I mentioned, we are partnering with the Kentucky Community and Technical College System and Simmons, and we are collectively working together to ensure that we are providing the necessary supports and encouragement for our young people once they start college and throughout their process. And I think the real beauty of our scholarship is that we give students options. They can use our scholarship opportunity to earn an associate's degree and work immediately in a high-demand field. We have many students that participate in Academies of Louisville programs within Jefferson County that may just need to complete a credential, or they might be interested in getting certified in a particular trade. They can use this opportunity for that as well. And for those that might want a pathway to a 4-year degree, again, they can use this opportunity. So we are truly meeting young people where they are and providing them options to reach the goals that they have for themselves. From our support agenda, and really with all our work, we really look at this sort of pathway to post-secondary education and focus on those transition points from cradle to career. So you can see we're focusing in on preschool and kindergarten readiness all the way to post-secondary completion and job attainment. And Evolve is uniquely positioned to serve in this sort of cross-sector convening role to really bring together the community partners and community resources at the same table and really addressing the challenges that our young people face together and collectively. A good example of this work, when the pandemic hit and our schools closed and we're going to non-traditional instruction, we knew that it was going to be important to provide additional support to our young people. And there were a number of out-of-school time providers and churches and other organizations that were willing to help and support, but they needed additional resources. And so we were able to really lift those up and really talk together about how do we better support our students. And through that effort, we were able to serve about 2,500 students during the NTI. We were able to provide PPE supports, technology, tutoring through JCPS teachers. And so we knew when we started looking towards summer that we were going to have to support and reach even more students. And we knew how critically important summer would be to keep students engaged in their learning. So again, leaning into what we're sort of calling this community learning hub model. Again, we worked with over 100 sites, many of our, again, out-of-school time providers, churches, other civic organizations. We had sites at JCPS schools, within our YMCAs. And so again, over 100 sites throughout our community providing the same level of quality instruction and support. We had about 20 enrichment providers that came in to provide special learning for our young people. We were able to hire College of Education students to help us with staffing and providing leadership support. We were also able to hire high school students and give them a chance to earn money while also working on skills that they may need to improve on. JCPS provided this financial support for all of this effort and also provided teachers, administrators, mental health practitioners to really go out into these sites and provide the support that people needed and the students needed. Food was provided. We had COVID testing. And so it was a real opportunity for us to pull together and have the full community coming together and really showed us how we can collaborate around this work moving forward. And we intend to continue to focus in and lean into that model as we move forward. As members of the Senate Education Committee, you know the value of some education beyond high school, whether it be a degree, a credential, a certificate, and how this not only impacts the earning power for a student, but how it also contributes to a growing economy. So we know it's critically important to be able to really retain and recruit business in our communities, to have a skilled workforce. It also adds to a larger tax base when we have a more educated workforce. Residential growth is a benefit from that, and a reduction in crime. And so that is why we are really focused on this effort and feel like it's a tremendous effort for us moving forward as a community. Our goal to make this scholarship opportunity available for, like I said, a whole generation of students will be a $50 million price tag. We are grateful for the support we have had so far, thanks to groups like the CENS Foundation, who provided a matching grant for us that really, I think, motivated our community, business leaders, other foundations, individuals, and Louisville Metro government to step up in a big way and provide support. To date, we have raised actually this says 21.7, but we're at $21.8 million. And we are at a point now that we can make the promise to everyone that's in 8th grade on up within JCPS students. And so we're thrilled about that. We've been excited to have this level of success through a pandemic, but we know our work is still ahead of us as we move forward to make this a reality. And this is just a list of some of those that I mentioned, supporters that have been on and really came in and brought very early support for us. So in closing, we know that this scholarship, a needed investment in our human infrastructure, serves as an important workforce solution for our community. We are changing the conversation that's taking place in the homes of our youth to say that college or some level of education past high school can be and should be for me. And we are also providing hope and promise to a population of students who have been left out and left behind. We would welcome the opportunity for state support in the future, and we believe our model could really be duplicated and replicated throughout Kentucky. And we would be honored to partner and collaborate with you all moving forward. So thank you so much for your time today and for allowing us to visit with you.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Thank you for the excellent presentation and the work you and your organization are doing within the Jefferson County community and the community at large. We do have a couple members with some questions or comments. I'll start first with Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Ms. Cole, and I'm very impressed with Evolve 502 and what you've done. My question, I'm so impressed, is this. I want to build upon your last statement. You have said that this is a program that you would like to take statewide and can use statewide. I come from the city of Lexington, and we're doing some great things there with the Carter G. Woodson Academy. As you achieve your goal, and I don't know if you're looking for some assistance from the state government, but I would like for you to connect with some of our outstanding education leaders in Kentucky to bring this program to Lexington, because it certainly can be useful there as well as in other areas. But are you going to stay for the entire committee meeting?
I think we will stay around for a while.
Okay,
yes. Well, and I'm happy to follow up with you. Yes.
I would like to connect with you,
sure,
to give you the names of two individuals I'd like for you to connect with, because I said we're doing outstanding things in Lexington. I'd like for you to come to Lexington or have them come to you in Louisville and bring this program to Lexington as well, because we've got Toyota there. We've got a number of other major companies there. We've got the University of Kentucky there. We've got Transylvania University there. We've got BCTC there, sure, which I know will want to participate in this program. So it can be.
Sure, and we would love to partner and share our learning. Obviously, alone we can't do that work. We would need the partnership of the state, but we do think this could be a model that could help every community throughout Kentucky, right, and similar to what you see in Tennessee and other Promise
right
programs.
Well, please connect with me, because
sure,
I do want to bring this program to Lexington and beyond, and I want to connect you with some people in Lexington so we can get this started.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Thomas. Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I want to commend you on bringing Marlon Coe. I want to join you in welcoming her to the Senate Education Committee. We followed this program for a time, and the number of people that have worked along with the program and the excellent leadership that Marlon Coe has brought to the program. And I'm just here to vouch for it. It is a very strong, focused, and embraced program, and it's effective. So I just want to make sure that folks understand this is one of these gems and I'm glad that Senator from Fayette has reached out, because exactly this is something I think we can use statewide. So I want to congratulate you on your presentation, but congratulate you on your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Neal. Any other questions, any comments from any other members? Senator Meredith.
Ms. Cole,
Yes.
thank you for your presentation. You did an excellent job, and
Thank
sounds
you.
like a fantastic program, particularly since it has a history. And I'm sure there's been a lot of learning experiences for you along the way. And that's part of my question is, obviously, fundraising is an important component of this.
Yes.
Are there any other obstacles to success in this program? And then, I think this goes back to your experience of dealing with this. Is what else do we need to do besides fundraising, increasing scholarships to make this successful?
Sure. And thank you for your question. We are somewhat still, while we have been at this for actually 3 years, going into our 4th year, still in our infancy in this program, and we have been looking at other programs across the country and learning from them. What I think we are understanding more and more, and this was not new, but definitely the pandemic has really lifted this up, that our young people are struggling. And it has much more to do with their life circumstances rather than their ability to learn. And we are really going to have to continue to wrap our arms around our young people to give them that confidence and that encouragement that they can make a difference and that they can do this, and that yes, they have to take some responsibility, but we are here to really help them through. And so I think a challenge is just to encourage young people to keep them on the path, to provide those intentional supports, and we are still working with our partners to figure out how this will look moving forward. But we know we need to do more intentional outreach with our young people to keep them on the path. But we do believe this can be a success, and really have appreciated the support of the community. And so I think it too, from a fundraising standpoint, it is getting the word out more and helping people connect to why this is important, how it really impacts the economy. So, selfishly, it helps our community as well as it helps individuals. But those are some of the things that we're learning and challenges that we're working through.
I appreciate that, and I would hope maybe you and I can have a conversation in the future. I'd like to know what your other measurements of success are.
Sure.
Certainly the number of kids we have educated is a prime one, but I would think there are probably some others besides that we'd want to take a look at. But again, I commend you for a great job, great program. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Meredith. Ms. Cole, thank you again. Excellent presentation. Look forward to continuing to watching Evolve 502 evolve more. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We have 3 bills on the agenda for today. One of those bills is from a member of the Senate who is not on the Education Committee. I'm going to let him go first, that being Senate Bill 151 for his time frame. And that is Senator Jason Howell. It's an act relating to school breakfast. Senator Howell, welcome to the Senate Education Committee. I think you may have been here before with some confirmations that you've had, but we welcome you to the committee, any guests that you have, and I would just ask that you first identify yourself for the record, and then your guests also identify themselves for the record. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason House, 1st Senate District. To my left, I have Leah Fagan, who is the Food Service Director for Mayfield Independent, and Catherine McDonald. I want to talk just briefly about it. I want them to talk more. They're more interesting than I am. This bill came through last year, and it died, kind of ran out of gas. I know Senator Higdon had some questions about it that I've addressed with him, hopefully to his satisfaction, but at least there's more information going back and forth. This bill, as some of you will recall, is to clear up any questions that school districts might have on whether they're allowed to feed children when they come in late for school. Right now, there's some discrepancy. I think probably a majority of our school districts are already doing this. Some aren't. It's kind of in a gray area with KDE on whether this is allowable or not. And this will take care of whether it's allowable or not by giving all the school districts the discretion to kind of make their own rule on whether they want to allow this or not. I think most of them will. one of Senator Higdon's questions last year was about taking away from instructional time, which is something we're always real sensitive to. But this changes it to make sure that they take their breakfast in the classroom at least, so to address part of that. I think that's all the highlights. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I'd like to turn this over to Leah Fagan to kind of walk you through how this looks in real life with kids.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me join you today. My name is Leah Fagan, and I'm very appreciative that Senator Howell is leading the way in the Senate to ensure this important legislation, Senate Bill 151, is discussed today. In the room today are some other members of Kentucky's educational community, including Jack Minyard, Harlan County Schools Food Service Director. He's also our Kentucky School Nutrition Association President, and Steve Abbott, Campbell County Schools Food Service Director, who is also our Kentucky School Nutrition Association Vice President. Dan Elnor, the Assistant Director of Nutrition Services Center for Jefferson County Public Schools, is also with us. So thank you for allowing all of us to be here. Others here have firsthand stories about the importance of removing the barriers to breakfast and the impact that Senate Bill 151 would have on their students as well. I'm grateful for this opportunity to give remarks on behalf of so many of my colleagues and counterparts from other communities, including Mayfield Independent Schools. This legislation to remove the barrier to breakfast will impact thousands of our students, and I've seen firsthand the impact that breakfast has on learning. By clarifying the current law, Senate Bill 151 will give school districts like mine in Mayfield the authority to allow breakfast to be served to those who need it most, the hungry students. The legislation will allow students who qualify for free and reduced meals to eat their breakfast during the first 15 minutes of the instructional time, wherever that may be, whether it's a hallway, a classroom, a cafeteria setting. Let me be clear, if this legislation passes, it will not create a breakfast period. School districts can implement breakfast during instructional time quite easily, and our students can learn and listen while having their most important meal of the day, because as you know, the majority of those students are receiving the majority of their important meals each day from us. It's much harder, however, to keep a student engaged during the school day if they're hungry. It's been found, in fact, that on average, students who eat school breakfast achieve 17.5% higher scores on standardized math tests, and schools that serve breakfast in their classroom see as much as 7.2% lower rate of chronic absenteeism. And I think there's many teachers that would also tell you the students are more behaved also and attentive. It's heartbreaking to know how many of our kids come to school hungry for reasons completely outside of their control, such as long bus rides or their parents' drop-off schedules. We have only seen an increase in students arriving late or just before the bell with no time left for breakfast since the devastating tornadoes that ripped through our town on December 10th. I ask you to take a moment to think about a child, maybe a first grader. Let's call her Annie. Annie spends 40 minutes on the bus on her way to school. She misses school breakfast because the bus arrives late, the bell's ring, and she has to go straight to class. Annie didn't have breakfast at home, so she'll be hungry until lunch. We can change Annie's story. You can help change Annie's story. By passing Senate Bill 151, Annie can go to her first class and breakfast can be given to her and her classmates who missed breakfast before the bell, and then they can eat the provided meal while attendance is taken, announcements are made, and the instruction begins. Those first 15 minutes are plenty of time for Annie to have a nutritious breakfast and never miss a moment of learning. Plus, she will likely be able to focus more during her lessons because she isn't so hungry, and this will be a win for Annie and teachers alike. I'm asking you to please support Senate Bill 151 and ensure students in Mayfield and across the state have the opportunity to begin their day with breakfast. Thank you for your time. I hope your support removes the barriers to breakfast in our schools across the Commonwealth. If you have any questions, Senator Howell, Kate McDonald from Feeding Kentucky, and myself are happy to answer.
Thank you. Anyone else with testimony?
I believe we're good. We answer any questions you have.
I do have, in support of the bill, we have 3 that have signed up in support of the bill. If they would wish to come to the table, provide supportive testimony. Steve Abbott, Julie, the ones you mentioned, they want to have many comments in support?
Hello, and thank you for having me here. My name's Dan Elnor. I am the Assistant Director for School and Community Nutrition Service, Jefferson County Public Schools. I was excited to see 502 Evolve give a presentation. We worked with them, as they mentioned, giving meals throughout the community throughout the pandemic. We've served over 13 million meals since the start of the pandemic, either curbside or through the Evolve program. We can take the lessons learned from the pandemic and take this directly with the use of this bill into the classroom and feed students wherever they are. I think that's one of the major things that we can do with this bill. Secondly, I would just like to point out that we're federally funded. We're asking for no state dollars. All of the money that comes to our programs are federally funded, and every student that selects a meal, we get dollars for that come back to Kentucky. That's a major point, is we get federal dollars to serve this program, and our students need it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Elroy. We did have a motion before that, though, Senator Kerr. We had two that have signed up for questions from the committee. I'll go first with Senator Higdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Senator Howell, thank you, and thank you all for your presentation today. I appreciate you working on this bill and threading the needle, because it's very important that all children get fed when they get to school in the morning. And it's also important that we don't reduce the instruction time. But it still says in the bill that all school districts shall arrange bus schedules so that all buses arrive in sufficient time to provide breakfast prior to the beginning of school. But this is a fail-safe in case that doesn't happen. And thank you for, like I said, threading that needle and making this work. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Senator Higdon. I see the two gentlemen back here are standing behind you all. I'm assuming you're the other two that have signed up in support. I don't know if you want to make brief comments since we are taking questions at this time. If you would, just please identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Jack Minyard, Director of Food Service, Harlan County Public Schools. I'd just like to throw one example out there. Harlan County is 64 square miles. Kids get up at 5 o'clock, catch a bus, go to the bus stop. And what has really happened, especially with this pandemic, we have some schools that let us do breakfast in the classroom because of the restrictions. And we've found from 30% that 85 to 90% actually are participating in the school meals. So, you know, there's a lot of kids, we're 100% CEP, and there's a lot of kids because of the long bus routes that we have doesn't get to school in time to eat. It's either be tardy or not eat. So this would be a win-win for the students. Nothing in it for us other than we're able to feed every child. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard.
Sorry, this is Steve Abbott from Campbell County Schools. Just piggybacking on some of the things that have already been said. For us, it's about access. This would allow our students who are suffering from access for whatever reason to have access to a healthy, nutritious breakfast. And together, we know that's the right thing for our children. If we can create access and have them be able to come in and not have to worry about a meal. High school children, we all know, in my experience, we are in a situation where high school children have lots of friends, they stay up later. We all in this conversation that are over a food service department, our high school participation is always a struggle. Middle school, it is a struggle. It starts at those ages and continually is a struggle for our school districts. This bill would help bridge that gap. This bill would help close and create access for our students to these meals, much more access than they currently have. That's all I have. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Next question, Senator West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Senator Howell. We had a good conversation out in the hall. Thank you for the legislation. My only question revolves around KDE and regulation. You know, we're having to do a statute on this. Why wasn't KDE able to just change a regulation? Could they do that, or are they saying the existing statutory authority doesn't exist? I don't understand.
I don't know that they're saying. I don't know that it's even come up through those. It's more the backside of that question. Is that some of the school districts are concerned that KDE will object to this, so they don't do it, and this would clear up any this would clear up any question about whether KDE would allow this, whether they've properly addressed it by regulation. I have a lot of questions about KDE and their regulations and their restrictions and what they do that have remained unanswered and probably unaddressed as well. I don't know internally what their process is with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a motion by Senator Kerr. Do I have a second on Senate Bill 151? We have a second from Senator Wilson. Mariah, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll, Senator Givens, Senator Harper Angel, Senator Higdon, Senator Kerr, Senator Meredith.
I'd like to explain my vote, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed.
I'm definitely a yes. But I find it almost embarrassing that we have to pass this law, which truly is just common sense. And to have people have to come all the way from Mayfield, Kentucky to advocate for this is just, to me, it's almost an embarrassment for state government that we have become such an impediment to common sense that we have to take this kind of action. So I commend you for the bill, but I hope maybe this is a wake-up call for our entire educational system that we've got to stop doing this sort of stuff and allow people in their home districts to make decisions for their students that are in the best interest. Nobody knows your students better than the people in your hometown, your home communities. And they should be allowed to make the decisions best interest of their people, and we're not allowing them to do that. So again, I thank you for bringing the bill, and definitely a yes on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I do want to say we appreciate our friends from Mayfield being here. We wish maybe next time they could bring some barbecue their way. They head to Frankfort. Thank you.
Senator Neal, Senator Southworth.
Spend my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
I'm going to vote yes, and probably for different reasons than everybody else has mentioned, and something I don't think we're spending enough time on. I had a group of students come visit me a few weeks ago, and I said, well, you know, what kinds of things do we do up here? Let me tell you. So I said, just think of things that happen in your life, and I'll tell you if we do it. So pretty much we did everything they named. And we talked about their cats and their dogs and everything. And I said, well, what kind of things would you like? And one girl, before she left, she's like, I got a question. Can you make the school day shorter? And I was like, absolutely, I will work on that, because I believe our students, there's no need to sit up here and worry about, oh no, are they going to get 15 extra minutes? Let's not kid ourselves that education is going on the full time they're all in these classrooms. Eating is fine, talking is fine. I mean, we need to get our kids focused, but these kids are not spending this time in educational instruction anyway, and we need to make things a little bit more easier for them to learn so that they're not just sitting in straitjackets. So I vote yes on this.
Senator Stivers, Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my I vote.
Please cast your vote, Mr. Lane.
I vote aye. And Senator Howard, I said this last year, and I'm going to say this again this year. I am so glad you brought this bill. As Senator Meredith said, this bill just makes a lot of common sense. I mean, a hungry child cannot learn. Let's just be obvious. If we're going to deny a child breakfast, the most important meal of the day, so you got to sit there until lunchtime, that child's not going to learn. That's going to be no benefit to this child. It just makes so much sense to have that child eat in the classroom and learn at the same time. We do it all the time as adults. We don't think anything about it. You know, let's help children learn and feed them at the same time. This is such an obvious right decision. Thank you for bringing this bill. I vote aye.
Senator West.
Aye.
Senator Wilson.
Aye.
Chair Wise.
Aye. By a vote of 12-0, Senate Bill 151 passes. Senator Howe, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, Committee.
The next item on the agenda, I'm going to skip around, is going to be Senate Bill 138. That is my bill. It's an act related to student instruction. I'm going to assume the testimonial table. I'm going to let Senator West, Vice Chair, assume the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Wise. I understand you have guests with you.
I do. I'm not sure if they want to come to the table now, or maybe wait till after my testimony. If that's okay, I'll just let them come up after I present opening comments.
Okay. Before you get started, Senator Wise, Chairman Wise, will be speaking to Senate Committee Substitute 1. Is there a motion to adopt substitute? We have a motion. We have a second. This is a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nays. Ayes have it. So you are free to proceed on Senate Committee Substitute 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 138. It's entitled the Teaching American Principles Act. The purpose of the legislation before you is to preserve alignment of middle and high school standards with American principles of equality, freedom, and personal agency. One of the first questions that I've got is, Senator Wise, why did you file this particular type of bill? Why do we need this at this time of our country's situation, our time of our state? Questions such as that. So amid national and statewide tensions that seem to be further dividing us, I'm drafted a bill with the intent to unify. And let's season our state's academic standards with American principles and encourage teachers to help students explore original core documents, analyze historical and current issues and controversies, and develop as the next generation of Kentucky citizens. Our entire country is facing a lack of knowledge when it comes to civics education. This is at no fault to our educators, but rather a reflection on a growing concern that Americans are falling behind in understanding the importance of civics and government education. The National Assessment of Educational Progress reports show that less than a quarter of American 12th graders are proficient in civics, and only 12% are proficient in U.S. history. I saw this firsthand as an American government professor when I taught undergrads at Campbellsville University. And even at our university, when setting and revising general education core requirements, one of the first areas on a chopping block to eliminate or severely diminish seemed to be American government, away from college courses. Although the new K-12 social studies standards have been upgraded to quality performance-based terminology, both educators and parents have complained that the standards seem to lack specific reference to key people, key events, key struggles, and key challenges, and also ongoing successes that have forged American democratic principles of equality, freedom, and individual rights. Secondly, the COVID-19 pandemic has engaged parent involvement more into their child or their children's education than possibly ever before. And it's a shame that it took a pandemic for this to become a reality. But with students having to learn remotely, parents listening to instructions, or parents helping to assist more in homework assignments, today's parents and their voice are being heard across the entire United States. Over this past year, community constituents, educators, parents, and students alike have very passionately and articulately shared sample student assignments that they perceive are increasingly about indoctrination into a particular worldview rather than education that equips students to think critically. They have also shared their frustration in seeking the source of curriculum authority and where parents can get engaged in the process. I'm sure many of you have had similar questions asked. Where do I go? Where do I turn to? Parents are showing up more at local school board meetings, asking questions, and in which in return could possibly lead to more parents running for elected positions. Third, it seems that growing concerns about critical theories in education have yielded national dialogue that has degenerated into hostile monologues, state legislation that is being based on a negative list of don'ts, and a media spin that is more cynical than informative, all of which have further divided America rather than to unify us. Members of this committee in the summer saw such meetings that we were having here. House Education Committee, the Senate took their chance of looking at issues such as this. And as we contemplated these issues during that 2021 interim, we discovered 1776 Unites. And we invited one of their main spokesperson, if you were here for that committee meeting, Mr. Ian Rowe, to share his perspective and his wisdom with the Interim Joint Committee on Education. 1776 Unites is a project of the Woodson Center that represents a nonpartisan and intellectually diverse alliance of writers, thinkers, and activists focused on solutions to our country's greatest challenges in education, culture, and upward mobility. If you remember from our committee meeting with Mr. Rowe, he provided us with the need to reinforce principles for young people that would help guide them to become agents of their own uplift and transformation, embracing the true founding values of our country. And many of you came to me after that meeting saying, thank you for bringing in a national spokesperson such as him to let us listen and let us learn. After reviewing national issues in our local testimony, listening and engaging in more conversations with shareholders, collecting artifacts surrounding these issues I've described, the process began in drafting of Senate Bill 138, an act to guide the teaching and learning of our young people with a more positive set of American principles for their future civic engagement. Senate Bill 138 focuses on the following three areas. Number one, instructional alignment with state standards and American principles. Number two, original core American documents and speeches. And number three, employer-employee guidance. I appreciate the support of Senate Bill 138 from those who have came to my office, who have spoken to me, and I've received constituent feedback across the state for months. It has informed our efforts to draft and unify Kentuckians around our Teaching America Principles Act. In addition, since filing this piece of legislation, we've also received valuable feedback, valuable suggestions to address legitimate concerns and alleviate misunderstandings with what was originally filed. I want to thank every constituent and every shareholder who has came to my office, messaged me, or contacted me and provided me with some wonderful suggestions that I've incorporated into the committee sub that you have before you today. I've fielded numerous emails, phone calls, in-person meetings, virtual meetings, online social media messages, some very kind, very professional, but also others who would rather call me a racist, a fascist, for daring to file a bill such as this. And I will say, if you know me and the work that I've done in these chambers, I will listen and I will work. I welcome everyone to have came to my office and also provide feedback. Consequently, I've drafted the committee sub before you to help clarify my further willingness to listen and to clarify my intent through responsive revisions to the following issues. I'm going to walk you through the committee sub at this time, line by line. The issue is what I will bring up first and what I have addressed in the committee sub from the original bill. Once again, this is based off of social studies teachers, shareholders, and others who have shared with me concerns. Page 2, lines 12 through 17. We focused on the state academic standards. Without invading local curriculum and instruction, we simply chose to extend the existing elementary standards, which we currently have, to middle and high school, which says students should, quote, describe the impact of foundational documents on the development of the United States. We will continue to rely on our instructors to create and align their lessons and curricula with the academic standards and help students think critically as they explore and draw their own conclusions about original core American documents. The second most commonly identified issue that I received, Senate Bill 138 limits and restricts the discussion of controversial aspects of history and historical oppression of a particular group, people, race, ethnicity, class, etc. I refer also to page 2 in the committee sub of lines 4 through 11. Although this absolutely was not the original intent of the bill, I will agree that the bill's original wording was confusing. Therefore, to clarify my intent for more open classroom discussion, the committee sub deletes the word, quote, impartial regarding discussion of controversial aspects of history or oppression of groups of people. As someone who's taught in the educational classroom before, I welcome those discussions. I want those discussions to be there. Parents also want those discussions. So we do not want to tell a teacher, and by removing the word impartial, to still encourage discussion of current events, as controversial as they may or may not be. The next issue. Senate Bill 138 interferes with our obligation to teach current events and hinders the students' exploration of competing perspectives that yields their own informed conclusions. I refer you to page 4, lines 18 through 25. This was an excellent point that I appreciate all the educators and others that came before to help rectify the possibly confusing language in the original document. So I proposed the following replacement wording regarding controversial current events and topics, and I borrowed this from language already in statute from both the Educational Professional Standards Board, EPSB, and the Kentucky School Board Association, KSBA. I eliminated this phrase, quote, An employee shall not be compelled to teach current topics or explore them from diverse and continuing perspectives without giving deference to any one perspective. I've replaced it with the paragraph in lines 18 through 25, as you can see there, which states, any instruction or instructional materials on current controversial topics related to public policy or social affairs provided to public school or public charter school students, regardless of whether the individual that provides the instruction is employed by the local school district or public charter school, shall be A, within the range of knowledge, understanding, age, and maturity of the students receiving the instruction, and B, relevant, objective, non-discriminatory, and respectful to the differing perspectives of students. Age appropriate. Numerous parents have contacted me. I get a lot because of being the education chairman. I get that. It's part of the job when you assume the chair. You hear from people not just within your district of assignments that parents were seeing to certain grade levels saying this is simply not appropriate for my child, a lot being at an elementary school level. We understand as the student progresses, as they learn, books change, literature can change, but there's a growing concern among many parents in this Commonwealth about some of the assignments that were being given. We're simply saying that they should be knowledgeable, understanding, and age-appropriate maturity of the students. The next issue, Senate Bill 138 impedes civic learning about situations that students may encounter in their lives, such as the legislative policy process. Many students or teachers were asking, does this mean I can't bring my students down to Frankfort to meet you, Senator Wise? No. Look in the sub, page 4, beginning with line 26. I've continued to receive complaints from many students that are being offered grades, extra credit, or incentives to lobby publicly for certain policies, promote current social issues, or support specific political candidates. I'm aware that this may not be the norm for all. Completely understand that. But we have had many conversations of this being done. However, I'm proposing the following replacement language that preserves the teacher's obligation to help students engage in such activities, but allows some choice for the student or for the parents of a minor. That being, an employee of a public school district or public charter school shall not violate a student's First Amendment rights by requiring or incentivizing a student to advocate in a civic space on behalf of a perspective with which the student or the parent or guardian of a minor they do not agree with. The last issue, most commonly received. Senate Bill 138 diminishes employee professional growth, inhibiting frank conversations about injustices for particular groups of people. I refer to page 5, lines 3 through 5. Staff members have came to us and told us they understand the need for such frank conversations, plus cultural competency and equity training. However, there are a growing number of numerous complaints of coercion and perceived indoctrination. Thus, I propose the following revisions in the bill. An employee of a local school district or public charter school shall not be required to engage in training, orientation, or therapy that coerces the employee to stereotype any group of people. I once again want to thank everyone who has provided me months of informative feedback. And while some would choose to perpetuate and almost celebrate some growing national division, it's time to be the model state. It's time to find common ground. It's time to unify around what makes us Americans. Our founding fathers chose not to create another monarchy, but did they settle for a total democracy? Nor did they settle for a total democracy. Instead, they chose to create a republic where we submit to the authority of a document and not fallible people. I can certainly say that the documents referenced in this bill are not perfect by any means, but they are the best documents crafted by any nation in the world. And those who have crafted many of these documents were not perfect, but they were individuals who provided at that time a voice and a pen of what our country would look like. Representing the voices I've heard across the state, it is my resolve to pass legislation that aligns true North American principles with state standards to allow educators and instructors in nurturing settings to help the next generation of Kentuckians explore foundational core documents that reveal how Americans have agreed, disagreed, and how we have progressed on the meaning of freedom and self-government. You know, the best compliment I ever got at an end of a course semester from my past or current students was, Professor Wise, I never knew what political party affiliation you were while I had you as a professor. Not until I signed to run for office did my students not know I was Republican, because in my classroom, I would personally not bring my ideology into a classroom setting. My courses are not about me. My courses are about students. And I can't say this is the case for all. Unfortunately, I know that it's not. Parents and students want to be talked to. They do not want to be preached to. And I think this bill finds a common ground to do so. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for allowing me to fully explain everything that's in the sub. Thank you, committee members, for allowing me to indulge into the conversation. At this time, I would welcome my guests who may want to testify in support of Senate Bill 138, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Wise. If they would come forward, I'm going to limit their testimony to about 1 minute.
I understand.
And so we can have time for others to speak who are signed up against. If you would identify yourself for the record when you've done that, please proceed. And I'm going to be pretty tight with the 1 minute.
My name is Beanie Gohagan. I thank you so much for having me here today to speak. I cannot even begin to tell you how strange it is that I am sitting here today. 3 years ago, I was a very content substitute teacher, church and school volunteer, wife to my high school sweetheart, and mother of 4 teenagers. Virtual school changed at least some of that. Instead of subbing, I was home watching my 2 youngest children's high school classes online, and my contentment faded. As I talked to more parents around Kentucky, I realized that I was not alone. We were frustrated by what our students were being taught and very concerned with what was not being taught. We followed proper protocol by communicating with the teachers and appealing to the school board. In the process, we were mocked, heckled, and slandered on social media. Fast forward to today and the need for Senate Bill 138. This bill is a way to ensure all children are educated, not indoctrinated by certain political and social beliefs, while also ensuring they are exposed to the rich content of the many amazing speeches, letters, and documents that tell the complicated story of America. I've read and learned more about the founding and functioning of our country in recent years than ever before. The more I learn, the greater my appreciation is for those who came before me and how unique our experience is as Americans.
That is time. If you could wrap it up or finish if you can. And I apologize. It's a tight committee today. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. My name is Timothy King. I'm a 15-year-old student. Up until this year, I was a student of JCPS. I'm currently a student at Moore Grace Christian Academy. As a result of many events since 2020, I became aware of some issues in my education. I came to realize that there was a certain mentality taught and encouraged in public schools. In my experience, victimhood was allowed and often praised. This could lead to students feeling like they are not able to achieve their best. In my opinion, students of JCPS are being taught critical race theory as an excuse for why certain students of different races are not held to the same standards or expectations. Such as African American students are being taught that they are not able to achieve certain goals like going to college, having a stable family, and succeeding in a good career because of the white man. As an African American male, my family taught me if I wanted to achieve anything, all I have to do is put my faith in God and put my mind in it. Excuse me. While public schools are creating victimhood mentality amongst some students, I believe they should be instilling the principle that every student can achieve their best and live victorious lives if they set their minds to it, and that nobody can stop them. Thank you.
That was awesome. You spoke really quickly.
He was very good. Mr. Chairman, I'll say we were supposed to have another student from Atherton. Is that correct, Beanie, that we're going to have today? If you would just quickly say in terms of, for the record.
So I actually have 2 other students who were going to speak, but the type of culture that's been created, they were afraid to speak because of retaliation that they would get from school. So they both typed up their statements, and I made copies for everybody. You guys can read them.
If you want to leave those, we will make copies for everyone on the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your presentation. At this time, we will bring forward those who are signed up to speak against. And we are really, really tight on time. So what I'm going to do is same format. We will do 1 minute apiece. And since we have some people up here already, if you would just, when you're ready, identify yourselves for the record. Is this one group together? Okay, gotcha. Just go ahead, proceed, identify yourself for the record, and proceed.
My name's Donnie Wilkerson. I teach history and social studies in Jamestown, Kentucky. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to be here today. Although the committee substitute is a marked improvement to the original wording, Senate Bill 138 is nevertheless unnecessary. Much like the transgender bill last week, this is legislation in search of a problem. You'll recall that I came before the interim committee to talk about the horrors of the social studies standards. They remain. but my concerns with the inadequacies of the standards pale in comparison to the slippery slope embraced by Senate Bill 138. Though some of the more egregious wording has been removed, this substitute should still raise serious alarm bells to those who cherish academic freedom. Who will comprise the new book police perusing our shelves for volumes they deem not relevant, not objective enough, or disrespectful to contending perspectives? Must I now remove time-honored scholarly works from my fifth grade shelves because they're written outside the range of knowledge of my students? Virtually every document mentioned in Section 13A are primary sources we currently use in our classroom, but almost all of them.
1 minute, if you could.
Let me wrap up then. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech, and the 14th Amendment says that the state shall make no law abridging the privileges of the United States. Please reject this unnecessary and unconstitutional bill. Choose instead the path of freedom and knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to testify today.
What is your name?
My name is Verna Cahoon, and I chair the Education Committee.
Ma'am,
of the
if you
League of
could
Women
press
Voters.
that button on the microphone there and until it turns green.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to testify today. My name is Verna Cahoon, and I chair the Education Committee of the League of Women Voters of Kentucky. And our president, Fran Wagner, asked me to speak for the League today. I would also like to say that this statement was written before the amendment was read. Based on the lasting commitment, the League of Women Voters of Kentucky opposes Senate Bill 138. We believe this bill would impair robust engagement with American history and the effective preparation of young Kentuckians for citizenship and democracy. We also oppose legislating how teachers, trained and dedicated professionals, conduct instructions. Students bring varied strengths, cultures, and experiences to the classroom, and serving all students well requires nimble, flexible, responsive teaching. Success for all learners cannot be built on legislative mandates that hamper teachers' ability to adjust instruction to the needs of every student by imposing tight constraints that do not reflect realities in the classroom.
That's about 1 minute. Thank you. I know it's a lot to say, and I apologize for
We
the
do
tight
have a
schedule.
lot to say, but I also would like to say that we hope this amendment that brought forth today will cover some of our concerns.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Renee Sarton, and I'm the Jefferson Branch Chair for the National Association of Social Workers, and I am also an associate professor who works at Campbellsville University on the Louisville's campus. I'm here before you this afternoon to discuss Senate Bill 138, which is a classroom censorship. This bill concerns me because it limits both important historical events as well as discussions on current events in real time. History is at times uncomfortable. Confronting the past is painful, but we as educators are not holding our students responsible for the actions of our ancestors. Ignoring the past or only telling partial truth does a disservice to everyone. It's an injustice to those whose story is being forgotten or falsified, and it does intellectual harm to those who are not exposed to the truth. Would you prefer that educators teach a view of history that does not even look like what really happened, or why it happened, or more importantly, how it affects us all today? That's education. Our children need to know how America was built on the backs of slaves. Ignoring the truth about slavery in America and the systemic discrimination that comes from that means we are not forced to question the historical cruelty inflicted on people of color. In Senate Bill 138, you want to teach the American principles. Among these are the values that all people are created equal. But all of us in this room know that all people are not created equal. We have students in. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If we could have different groups come up. If you could, please identify yourself for the record. Proceed.
Good afternoon. My name is Brendan Everwine. I am a junior at DuPont Manual High School. I've been in Jefferson County Public Schools since kindergarten. I'm here today to use my voice as a student to oppose what I think is one of the most destructive bills to education in Kentucky. Contrary to its cited name, this bill's goals are not to teach American principles, but to create a curriculum that is insufficient and whitewashed. The idea that an institution that was codified in law, reaffirmed through Supreme Court cases such as Dred Scott, and existed for hundreds of years in the United States is unimportant and doesn't define this country in many ways is ignorant. Refusing to acknowledge American history of upholding the institution of slavery and segregation is destructive to our national healing and the continuing fight for equality. I want to conclude by making it clear to this committee that my education is not a political tool to be messed with for partisan gain. The history I want to be taught is the truth. The purpose of history should be to educate students about the past and to learn from the mistakes of the past. Providing an insufficient history that washes away anything unsavory or attempts to explain it away as having no bearing on the present to make students comfortable is a substandard education. Kentucky students deserve the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Anything less is an insult to the students of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bree Woods. I'm a junior at DuPont Manual High School, and I'm in our Journalism and Communications program. I'm against Senate Bill 138. I believe this bill will negatively impact my education, as well as my fellow students. I know that I won't be in public school for much longer, but I feel compelled to ensure the quality of education students who come after me receive. The biggest reason why I feel 138 will negatively impact my education is because it discourages teachers and students from having truthful conversations about current and past events. As a JNC student at my school, this would directly harm the integrity and caliber of curriculum I and other students are taught. The first lesson I had in the first journalism class I took was the importance of reporting the truth. Yes, there are multiple sides to every story, but an undeniable fact is that there's a correct side to most stories. I believe that if we always take an objective view towards history, we won't discover and uncover the deep wrongs our country must right. How will my generation begin to create a brighter future if we don't critique the systems that keep our present so dim?
It's about 1 minute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon to you. My name is Dr. Stephen D. Nifley Jr. I'm the Chief Diversity Officer for Spalding University, as well as an Associate Professor in the School of Professional Psychology. It was once said that those who cannot remember the past are doomed to repeat it. Without an honest reflection on the bad as well as the good circumstances that have created this country, we will condemn our youth to repeating the challenges of the past when it comes to racial and ethnic minorities, women, and also individuals with disabilities. The cost of not remembering will have a negative impact on our youth in regards to their mental health, academic achievement, as well as their behavior management difficulties. A study by Sturm and colleagues found that we spend over $12 billion a year on youth mental health related issues. Imagine if we were to have conversations that could facilitate a different process when it comes to the mental health challenges that our folks are facing. The science has been very clear that when it comes to our youth of color, as well as our white youth, those who are able to have more honest conversations around race and racism are more likely to have more and better mental health well-being compared to those who don't. Additionally, there's been significant research to show that those who are able to have conversations around race and racism are more likely to have better academic achievement as well. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could now have another set of people to come forward. Whenever you are ready, whoever wants to go first.
I'll go. Okay. Hi, I'm Dr. Beverly Darrington Moore. I have a broad and deep history as an educator and as a researcher, as well as being on the school board. And I'm honored to speak to you today, but I want to point out that I have not been able to, I've only heard about this amendment from Senator Wise, and it sounds like the major concerns of so many of us about the infringements on the right to speak, freedom to speak, have been taken care of. So I want to skip to the one thing I didn't hear anything about, which is that we already have there are more than 43,000 teachers in Kentucky, 4,300 something. And it's bound to happen that a few of them are going to make mistakes. A few of them might not use the proper methods. But we already have the structure and the professional personnel in place to deal with that. It's the responsibility of the principal to make sure the teachers are doing the right thing. It's the responsibility of the subject supervisors. It's the responsibility of the superintendent. And they have the help of the Kentucky Department of Education, which provides all the tools and the guidance in how to provide the latest and the best in educational methods.
That's 1 minute. For the record, your name
I'm
and
sorry.
school board again?
Beverly Darrington Moore.
Moore?
Moore, Moore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I hope you cover that last part too. Thanks.
Mrs. Moore, I'm sorry, you misunderstood my question. What school board do you represent?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you asked for my name.
I thought you answered it. I'm sorry, too.
I am not on the school board now. I was on the Jefferson County Public School Board.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Please proceed.
Hi, I'm Tim Holman. I'd first like to thank the committee for allowing me the opportunity to speak on Senate Bill 138. I'm in my 23rd year of teaching and currently teach government and politics at DuPont Manual High School. I've always tried to provide my students with a diverse and balanced instruction, and I believe that in part is the intention of this bill. But as a teacher of government, I've often seen good intentions result in unintended consequences, particularly when it's coming from the top down. I certainly believe that the government should play a role in our life, but that role should be predominantly determined close to home, and not as dictates and mandates from big government. I noticed one of the documents mandated by this bill was a speech by Ronald Reagan, who was largely elected on the promise of devolution of decision-making to local entities. I don't want to see well-intentioned legislation ultimately harm instruction, harm teachers, and ultimately harm kids. I've looked quickly at some of the amendments, and I especially am happy about the removal of impartial. I had a whole section about that, and I believe that's moving in the right direction. I also think that Part 3, subsection 5B, that has been changed is positive, especially the part that, but I do have concerns about the phrasing of within the range, knowledge, and understanding age and maturity of the students, because I do think that is a very relative kind of factor that could be potentially problematic.
That's about 1 minute.
While I commend the Senate for a more thoughtful iteration of this bill than the House version, I do worry that as the bills are merged, many of the problematic elements of the House version could be combined with the Senate version. And I will speak to that hopefully next week.
Thank you.
I hope clearing my throat doesn't go towards the 1 minute.
It does not.
My name is Chuck Eddy. I'm speaking for myself as a supporter of good public education. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Chairman Wise and committee members, including my own senator. I am firmly opposed to SB 138. I'm opposed to censorship of teaching in the classroom. We need to teach all American history, not just feel-good American history. I have Jewish family members and friends who lost family in the Nazi Holocaust. Our country was not without dishonor. In 1939, the SS St. Louis with 937 Jews from Europe were turned away from the United States. They were turned away from several countries. They went back to Europe. Many of them were likely lost in the Holocaust. Members of my own family owned slaves in North Carolina. I'm not proud of it, but I want to remember it. Never again should we have racism in America. It concerns me deeply that you're going to dictate that teachers should say things like anti-Semitism, genocide against Native Americans, slavery, and racism go against what our country has always stood for. Unfortunately, that's simply not true. We have great aspirations in Americans, and I'm very proud to be an American. But part of my pride comes from our ability to learn from our past mistakes, not ignoring them. Please vote no on 138. I would recommend that this committee not vote on this bill at all today. The public needs to be able to see the exact wording on the committee substitute. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will have to stop right there on people signed up against. Are you ready? I've got. It's got to be really tight. I've got to let the senators have their questions answered as well. If you could be real tight, these are the last two.
My name is Lucy Waterbury. I'm a site-based decision-making council member in Fayette County. I'm also a PTSA leader and a concerned parent. I want to thank Senator Wise for the changes to the bill. It was dramatically improved. I do, and I think these other speakers have done an amazing job. But I will say that I do have concerns as a parent about specifically A Time for Choosing by Ronald Reagan. The Reagan of my youth was the Gorbachev, don't tear down this wall, right? Why we've chosen a political speech that basically glorifies Barry Goldwater is a little bit beyond me. Barry Goldwater voted against the Civil Rights Bill, and he was against school integration. So I'm struggling a bit to understand why we would put in statute that particular piece. But I will let King speak for me, because Martin Luther King, which I am ecstatic about a letter from the Birmingham jail being in there, amazing, great. But here's what King had to say about Barry Goldwater at that time. I think context is important, right? King said of Goldwater's voting record, while not himself a racist, Mr. Goldwater articulates a philosophy which gives aid and comfort to the racists. King feared that Goldwater's position that civil rights must be left, by and large, to the states meant leaving it to the Wallaces and the Barnetts. Electing Goldwater, King said, would plunge the country into a dark night of social disruption. So if this is the counter to a letter from Birmingham jail, I think we need to be really concerned about putting in statute this Reagan speech, which was a political election speech in which Goldwater was soundly defeated by Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Marcus Ray. My name is Marcus Ray. I'm the president for the Kentucky State Conference of NAACP branches. And we oppose this bill because it creates a gatekeeper for education and the things that we discussed in the classroom. The First Amendment gives us freedom of speech, and I think education falls under that. And I know we're short for time, so I'll submit the rest of this to you in writing so we can move on.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Next, we have questions. Any questions from senators on the committee on this bill? I am totally shocked that we don't have any questions from senators. So, are those?
Mr. Chairman.
Leave it to Senator Neal to have a question.
I just cannot allow us not to be questioning this piece. First of all, I want
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Senator Wise for being open, inviting in terms of the discussion of Senate Bill 138, which he knows I found totally objectionable. But he did listen, and I appreciated that. And I noticed that in this committee substitute, there are some significant changes with respect to that. I guess my concern, Senator Wise, is what the party that testified said about us sort of dictating from the top and that she can be handled. I mean, we got trained professionals that, some people don't have some respect for them, but I got total confidence in them because they turned out a son of mine who's excelled in the system, But here's the deal. Some of these words concern me, but I just want to ask you, and I'm not going to take a bunch of your time, but this word regarding non-discriminatory, what does that mean in the it says here on page 4, 24, relating to any instructional materials or current controversial topics related, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on to subsection B, as it relates to shall be relevant, objective, non-discriminatory. What does that mean in the context of what we're talking about?
Senator, what we're talking about there is just the instructional materials that are being provided. If it's a controversial topic, that they are non-discriminatory in nature towards any. It could be towards any type of person. That we have that in statute, that we put that there just to be respectful to any differing perspectives. Discriminatory, but we thought the word non-discriminatory would be a better word to use in that particular section.
Okay, and the reason why I just picked that out, because I can't go through these little things I could pick and peck at, but the reason I raised that question is that I'm not sure, and maybe it's my deficiency, I'm not sure what that means in the context of things. I would ask you just look back at that.
And Senator, you've got my word. I'll be happy to work with you after we leave the committee today. just like we had before on a lot of issues, and see if there's some things we can improve on.
Again, I want to commend you on your openness and your
Thank you, sir.
Your ears.
Thank you, sir. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Senator
Please
Neal.
tell my wife that also, sir.
That'll have to be the last word because Senator Carroll has to present his bill next. Do we have a motion on SB 138 as amended by the proposed committee substitute 1? Senator Meredith, I believe, got to you first. Senator Carroll. Senator Givens is a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll, Senator Givens, Senator Harper Angel.
Explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
First of all, I want to say that the chairman, education chairman, has done so much to improve education in Kentucky, but I have major concerns about this piece of legislation. Our teachers must not be censored, and our history must not be skewed, and therefore I vote no.
Senator Higdon. Senator Kerr. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal. Senator Southworth.
Explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
I appreciate the progress that's been made so far on this, and I think there are some excellent pieces here. Part of the problem I have just looking at this, though, is we're looking at, okay, we're going to make sure we cover these 24 items, and in, 7 years of schooling, we can get way more than that done. So I know that there's going to be potential for more education. My concern in this whole space is that there's not enough educating going on, and so we are leaving a lot of gaping holes on how much extra our students going to learn. But I feel like this is good because this is at least a start to what should be on things like assessments. Some of these I don't even know what they are, and I had to go start reading them. I did object to the Ronald Reagan speech, and I read it. I thought it was actually really interesting. I wouldn't have put it on the list, but it was actually a really interesting read. So just go read it because it's really interesting. Thanks.
How did you vote? What was your vote?
I've explained my yes vote, and I apologize if I forgot a key word in that sentence.
Senator Stivers.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to explain my yes vote.
Please proceed.
Yeah, I look across at this group and the chair and several of the members and things we've worked on. In fact, the earlier presentation, and Senator Neal knows what we've tried to deal with Simmons College, the creation of a different educational dynamic. And I appreciate the discussion here. But I also think that individuals who have come up to testify, a former school board member, a faculty member at DuPont Manual, would go back and read the articles of the Courier-Journal, who are really not my friends. In fact, they're not a bastion of conservatism, who reported not on systemic racism, but blatant racism at the magnet schools in Louisville. And are these individuals in front of the JCPS talking about how they were catering to the rich and connected to the detriment of the African American student, which to me is abhorrent.
Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my no vote, please.
Please proceed.
I'd like to address my comments really to the broader audience and more importantly to the people of Kentucky. First, I want to begin by saying I know Senator Wise. He's a well-intentioned, good individual. I've been very complimentary of him in the past and continue to be very complimentary of him. And so there should be no ill intent addressed to him regarding his sponsorship of this bill. Secondly, I do have to say that I don't know why we create this boogeyman of critical race theory, and now we're buying into that here in Kentucky because we don't teach critical race theory here in our K-12 schools. And I don't know why we have to color the boogeyman of critical race theory black. I'm really troubled by that because that just feeds into racism that exists all across this country. History is very valuable. It's a very valuable subject. It instructs us about the good and bad of our past. And it provides us with knowledge and insight of what we need to do better so we can enhance the hopes and dreams for our future. And I don't think we should ever whitewash history. You know, we've got to tell it like it is so we understand that. We got to talk about slavery and the oppression that occurs. We got to talk about the Trail of Tears and the horrors that Native Americans faced. We got to talk about the Holocaust in hopes that we never see that again. I mean, those are things that happened in our past, and you know they're there. They're not the best part of who we are, but we got to know about that so we can be better individuals going forward. Finally, and I accept what President Stivers said, but I just do not believe. I can't buy into the fact that, and I'm a official elected by Lexington, but I just don't believe that Jefferson County Public Schools teaches black students that they are not good enough to go to college. I just find that too incredulous. I'm just sorry. I just find that too incredulous to accept. For all those reasons, Mr. Chair, this is why I vote no on this legislation, and I just hope that Kentucky, as we move forward in our education system, can do a lot better than Senate Bill 138 today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator West?
Aye.
Senator Wilson? Chair Wise?
Mr. Chairman, real quick, briefly explain my yes vote.
Yes.
I do hope that those that testified today will look at the sub, especially page 2, lines 4 through 11, of where we're not telling teachers what they can and cannot teach and what our students can and cannot learn. So I hope the sub does alleviate a lot of the concerns that those that testified today against the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Senator Neal, if you could keep it real tight, please.
Mr. Chairman, all due respect, this is a very important subject. I'm sure I will be allotted at least a half an hour to explain. No, the reason why I wanted to explain my no vote was because of the comment made by Senator Stivers. You know, what we got to understand here is that we do have a society that is not separated from how we got to where we are. There are dynamics. Even on the floor of the Senate, we run into people that have different and cultural perspectives, and they embrace various ideals that are not congruent one to the other, for instance. But here's the point, Mr. Chairman. The point is that we have a society that has problems rooted in our past. They are visited upon us now. So we can come together, face those things, and then we can work toward a better society. Because after all, what we're talking about is a more perfect union. That's what this is, the great experiment. So I think if we go into this with respect for each other and not be afraid of the past, discuss it openly and accurately and as truly as we can be, then I think we have an opportunity to be better as a country, better in relationship to each other, more understanding. And of course, our future is rooted not in us. It's rooted in our young people. They came here and spoke today, and I want to applaud each and one of them, regardless of what their expression was, for stepping up to the plate and letting us know how they feel about this. So I want to commend Senator Wise for his effort here, but I really do think it's unnecessary. I think it's part of a continuum. We need to let our systems work through. I think we're on the right track. I think the future is bright for us, contrary to what some people think. Maybe it's because I'm an internal optimist, but I think we got the greatest country in the United States of America is the greatest country, and we have the greatest opportunity to lead the world, and I think we're doing it now. And I think if we respect each other going forward, if we speak the truth, if we don't hide the fact that we have negatives but strive for positives, then we can be even better than we are now. We'll achieve a more perfect union. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Neal, for keeping it tight. The Senate Bill 138 passes with a vote of 9 aye votes and 4 nay votes and shall be reported favorably. Thank you, Chairman Wise. We have before us now Senator Carroll. He's going to present on Senate Bill 120, And just to keep you posted, Senator Carroll, I'm making a command decision. We're going to go to 10 after, so that should give you a full 15 minutes to do that. And we have a sub on 120. Is there a motion on the sub? We have a motion and a second. Without objection, so ordered. And we have, I'm sorry, we have a voice vote. This isn't administrative regs. I'm sorry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Danny Carroll. I'm the state senator for the 2nd District. And if I could, please have my two guests introduce themselves who have joined us remotely.
Chief Joe Monroe with the University of Kentucky Police Department, also the president of the Kentucky Chiefs Association.
Bruce Watson, Director of Law Enforcement Safety for McCracken County Schools.
If those gentlemen who are virtual, if the next time you speak, if you could speak up a little bit, we've got some background noise here in the committee room. Please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to cut to the chase on this bill. This is a follow-up bill that stems from the Senate Bill 1 in 2019, the School Safety and Resiliency Act. This bill simply allows school districts to create their own campus police departments. The model is exactly what we use in our state universities throughout the Commonwealth. There were minor changes that were made to the language. One in particular has to do with the request made by JCPS. It's permissive language related to officers supporting the school district in the enforcement of lawful rules, regulations, and code of conduct of the school district. So it's permissive that will only occur if the school allows. These agencies are set up just like any other police department: sworn officers, uniforms, cruisers, radios, sirens. Jurisdiction is a little bit different. They have jurisdiction on property that they own or use if it's throughout the state. And then they can also establish greater jurisdiction through agreements with local government or law enforcement entities, or they can have extended jurisdiction to assist law enforcement entities. And I've asked Chief Monroe to be here today because he can give specifics to articulate how these laws are actually carried through on a practical basis within the police department. So I'm just going to leave it at that, Mr. Chairman, and then we'll answer whatever questions come up and go from there.
Whoever wants to chime in first virtually can proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we would support this legislation based on it. It's like Senator Carroll was demonstrating. It is very much like the campus law enforcement for universities at the state colleges. The jurisdiction that we have is very similar to what this would be. Our powers are anywhere in the Commonwealth of Kentucky that the university owns, controls, occupies, or leases space. So that is very similar to what Senator Carroll has proposed.
Director Watson?
Well, what we've run into in McCracken County is, excuse me, I'm doing this in a school, so you'll hear bells and announcements. So what we've run into is two scenarios that cause me concern. Morning and afternoon dismissal and arrival. Some of my officers at some of the schools have to be out on a public highway directing traffic, which, you know, we're out there with emergency vehicles. However, technically we have no more authority to be out there doing that than, you know, someone that's just come up on a wreck and is trying to assist. The other two issues that come up, we get called many times to go with principals, counselors to go check welfare on students, and we're glad to do that. However, when we walk into a house, they see a person with a gun and a badge that they identify as a police officer. However, we have no statutory authority. So if something did occur, our only recourse would be to notify either Paducah Police Department or McCracken County Sheriff's Office. So there'd be a delay there. The last thing is responding to any kind of disturbance on a bus. And once we get there and step onto that bus, I've talked with Department of Criminal Justice attorneys, our local county attorney, and they all feel like that we're in a gray area and they recommend not to take any type of action. So let's say, we get there and we've got two parents in a physical altercation. Our recourse is, if we can't get them to stop, to notify another agency to come to assist. So it's just, it would, in my opinion, kind of clean up. And the thing about it is, here in McCracken County, we're still have to be POP certified. We're all academy trained. We attend a minimum of 40 hours in service every year, and it kind of gets in the old "if it walks like a duck" type thing.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would note that these officers are SROs in the same sense that the current SROs, and it's just another option that the school district has. They can contract with sheriff's departments, police departments, state police. They can have the SRO program like Director Watson is in charge of, or they can have their own police department. And there are some advantages to that. There are federal dollars that could be available for actual police departments that would come into play here. And so that's one advantage. And the biggest issue is the expansion of jurisdiction that would allow these officers to better protect their students. If they're away, they're on a bus, and they have the authority to investigate throughout the state, to cooperate, work with other law enforcement agencies. And most of these folks have agreements with their local departments or cities through an MOU where they establish jurisdiction outside of their ground. So again, it is permissive, and it's just another option that our school districts would have.
Thank you, Senator Carroll, for that presentation and your guests. We will now open it up to questions from members. We do have one here, Senator Higdon.
Thank you, Senator Carroll. And I expressed, concern. I know we're already doing this with multiple agencies where we're hiring retired officers, and naturally the officer, they don't accumulate another retirement, and so there's no contribution due by them. But in many instances, we're also the employer's not required to make any contribution. And I know we're doing that. We've been doing it for some time, but as my involvement with the retirement system, I'm always concerned where we, I guess, potential contributions to the retirement system are not there. So just I guess I had to voice my concern.
And I don't know that this will really affect any of that because of the groups that are already protected with municipal agencies, the SROs. So it falls under that. I have requested from budget staff to see if we can pull some numbers together related to that.
Senator Southworth.
Mr. Chairman, I have two questions. Can I ask both?
Pretty quick if you can.
My first one is, we just heard that we don't know who has authority on a school bus. I don't believe schools are like a federal enclave. So what can you cite to what the law issue is? And
this bill gives authority on any property that the school occupies. It is.
I was looking for current law that the problem is.
Established powers on all property owned or being used by the school district. So this would allow for jurisdiction on the school bus as that property is being used by the school district. And Chief, can you comment on that any further from your perspective?
Yes, so I would agree with you on that, Senator. The property being the school bus would allow, under your bill, to give the powers of police officer jurisdiction for that said bus.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know that I have the answer, and so I've now forgot my second question because I'm so confused. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I don't understand what you're confused about. This grants that authority.
I'm looking for current law that precludes that authority. How did we get to the need for this? What's currently?
Well, the confusion. I guess if in the SLEO model, there is some confusion whether or not that's allowed, since they do not fall under these statutes. It's a different set of rules for them, even though they are sworn officers. And this establishes those police departments within a school district, or those SROs, that agency, they establish their own police department, so they have more authority, more jurisdiction with agreement, in on whatever, or on or in whatever property they own or operate or occupy.
Okay.
Senator, maybe I can help you with that. The current statute says real property, and according to DOCJT attorneys I talked with and our local county attorney, real property would not, a bus would not fit under that.
Okay,
and
what KRS says real property? That's what I was looking for.
The SLEO statute itself, when it limits your authority. And then the other thing is the SLEO statute, as it's set up right now, we're the only law enforcement entity in the state that I'm aware of that every 4 years has to be resworn, submit to a background investigation, pay a fee, but we still have all the requirements of any other law enforcement officer, such as we have to be academy trained, POP certified, and maintain our in-service training if we're going to continue to be employed as law enforcement officers. And the SLEO statute has been addressed in the past. People that deal with it every day has said that it's wasn't really set up for the school SRO and what we're expected to do in today's times.
Okay, thank you.
That's going to have to be the last word. We're tight for time, so thank you, Senator Carroll. We have a motion on SB 120 as amended by proposed Senate Committee Substitute 3. Do we have a second? We have a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Aye.
Senator Givens. Senator Harper Angel. Senator Higdon. Senator Kerr. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal.
I'd like to explain my pass. I need more information to respond to this, so I'm going to pass it this time.
Thank you.
Senator Southworth.
Explain my no vote, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
I am similarly a little bit struck by how quickly we're trying to hit something this major. There's a lot here and even more in the sub than was in the original bill, and I think we need to really look at this. I have a number of questions. There's no way you could get through it in a committee hearing, and if this is going to really move forward, we'll definitely be taking a look at some serious details. Thank you.
Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas. Senator West.
Aye.
Senator Wilson.
Aye.
Chair Wise.
Aye.
Senate Bill 120 as amended passes with a vote of 8 ayes, 2 nays, 1 pass, and shall be reported favorably. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.